Good day, everyone. My report is all about freedom of the human person. First, let us define what is freedom. Freedom is the ability to make choices and perform those choices. It is the ability to be what we want and to decide and create oneself. So when we say freedom, it's the right to make choices, act, and live without being controlled by others. It means having the ability to decide and create oneself. But always remember that freedom comes with responsibility as our actions affect the peoples around us. So we have the two concepts of freedom. First, the freedom itself and free will. So freedom itself is the quality or state of being free. The capacity to choose what we wanted and an inner awareness of what is right and wrong that is traced to our free will by Aristotle. Freedom itself means is the overall stage of being free. It's the capacity to choose what we want and an internal awareness of what is right and wrong, guided by our free will. Next is free will. Free will allows to decide on things we do depending on the situation. Our ability to choose between two possible courses of actions independently. So when we say free will, is our ability to make decisions based on the situation. It allows us to choose between different possible actions independently. Yes. Next, we have the kinds of freedom. There are three kinds of freedom: the physical freedom, psychological freedom, and moral freedom. Physical freedom refers to the absence of any physical resistance. So, ang physical freedom is a type of freedoms that about the absence of physical restraint. It means being able to move, act, live without physical barriers or restrictions. Psychological freedom, also called freedom of choice. It is the internal ability to make choices based on one's own desires, thoughts, and understanding. It's the ability to make decisions independently based on personal desires and reasoning. So psychological freedom naman, ang kung example, may ara ka freedom of choice na example ba magpili ka sang course para sa college na example na siya sang psychological freedom. You are choosing based on your own interest and goals without pressure. The last kind of freedom is the moral freedom. Moral freedom refers to using freedom of choice. Moral freedom isn't just about doing what wants. It involves making choices that honors human dignity, goodness, and respect for others. It's about using freedom in a way that considers the impact of one's action on others and aligns with moral principles such as honesty, kindness, and respect. Ang sa moral freedom is it not just about doing what one's wants. It involves making choices that honor human dignity, goodness, and respect for others. Kumbaga, sa diriya, gayus ka sang freedom nga hindi lang sa imo nga gusto gid, kundi ginaisip mo gid ang iban bago ka make some choices nga ina. So, like, for example, nakakita ka bi wallet, di ba may depende sa imo kung iuli mo or hindi. Pero kung sa moral freedom, ginpili mo nga iuli ang wallet, it's because ginadumdum mo ang taong tag-iyas ang wallet. So sa moral freedom, you are making choices and respect others. Yes. So next. So remember that all actions have consequences. Consequentialism holds that all actions have consequences and that the ultimate basis for any judgment of rightness or wrongness of a conduct or action is the consequence. Consequentialism is the idea that the consequences or results of our action at work are what matter most. This means that whether an action is good or bad depends on its outcome. So all action have consequences, and consequentialism judge actions based on those consequences. Next. Utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is a type of consequentialism. It specifically argues that actions are morally right if they maximize overall happiness or benefit for the most people. So, consequentialism and utilitarianism both focus on outcomes, except that consequentialism is for general and utilitarianism is for specific outcomes. There are two types of utilitarianism. First, the act utilitarianism. Act utilitarianism measures the degree of happiness that the greatest number of people will experience from an action. It focuses on the consequences of individual actions. It suggests that in specific situation, you should choose the action that brings the most happiness or benefit to the greatest number of people. The rule utilitarianism is an ethical principle that recognizes the necessity for rules that are created for the greater good of the many. Rule utilitarianism focuses on following general rules that over time lead to the greatest good for most people. It emphasizes creating and following rules that have been shown to produce positive outcome overall. So kung act utilitarianism is for specific situation, ang sa rule utilitarianism naman is para sa general rules nga lead to the greatest good for the most people. So there are 7 types of act utilitarianism. First, the duration, remoteness, purity, fecundity, intensity, certainty, and extent. That's all. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned my lesson.